Hello, my name's Carolyn and I'm one of the Macmillan occupational therapists. You may or may not be familiar with occupational therapy, but it's a process of looking at the everyday tasks and routines that you have to improve independence and quality of life. We talk about occupations, and by occupations we mean all the things that you have to do and that you want to do, basically the things that occupy you. Cancer and its treatment, and indeed its recovery, can have a great impact on occupation, and fatigue particularly can be very significant in your daily routine. I'm sure many of you can relate to this. Often fatigue is very difficult to describe to others, and there's evidence that many people suffer in silence. They don't mention it to family or friends or indeed their healthcare professionals. But there is evidence that it can be one of the most debilitating symptoms, disrupting day-to-day life and daily routines. Fatigue has been linked to a cycle of deconditioning, and really it's a cycle of fatigue. You feel fatigued and tired, therefore you do less, and by doing less you become weaker and more tired. So when you try to do something, then you feel even worse. And so it goes on, and so fatigue can become a real pattern. But just what do we mean by cancer-related fatigue? And as healthcare professionals, this is the definition that we use. We talk about an unusual and persistent tiredness. So it's really described in all sorts of ways, and many people have described it to me. One lady described it as just trying to plod through porridge every day. It's not what we normally know when we're well as being tired. It interferes with normal functioning, so actually the day-to-day routine can be disrupted. This may be very minimal, or maybe to the point where you're able to do nothing at all. It's not relieved by sleep or rest. Often at the end of the day we say we're exhausted, but usually a bit of a rest, it'll pick us up and we're ready to go again. People describe fatigue as being tired even when they get up in the morning before they've started the day. And it's not proportional to recent activity. So you can, as I mentioned there, you can be tired before you've even done anything at all, or after a day of feeling as if you've done nothing. One gentleman described it as, I felt as if I'd climbed Everest, but I'd really only made it to the top of the stairs. And it's subjective, everyone will experience it differently. So, if you ask a group of people, they'll all describe something slightly differently. And just a final point is, many assume that fatigue generally accompanies illness, and as I've said before, they don't talk about it. They just accept it as it is. But yet 70 to 100% of people experiencing cancer will experience fatigue at some point throughout their illness, whether it be a mild fatigue or that very severe fatigue that we've alluded to. I don't want to dwell too much on this slide, but it's just really to show you how complex fatigue can be as a symptom. And it outlines some of the causes. And again, it's very important to understand that, because sometimes some of these causes can be treated, and therefore that can help fatigue. So you can see there, it's not just the cancer and its treatments, but it might be some medications, or it might be another symptom such as pain. It might be stress, lack of sleep, poor nutrition, particularly if you're feeling very nauseous. So there's a wide range of things. There's underlying medical conditions as well that can contribute to it. And then on this slide, really, we're just looking at how fatigue can affect someone. And it really just highlights the impact that fatigue can have on all aspects of your life. And again, that might be a very mild fatigue, and you might experience very little disruption, or it can be really severe. So we've talked about the physical effects, so you talk about the weakness, the tiredness, maybe that can lead to lack of independence. And then emotionally as well, fatigue can have an impact, because people can feel very frustrated, they can be anxious, and sometimes even it can lead to a depression if they're feeling really low. We talk about cognitive impact, that's that sense of not being able to concentrate. The idea that you sit down to watch the news and before you know it, the news is over and you've missed it. Or, you maybe can't concentrate on a book, you can't get past the first page. That sort of real cognitive tiredness. It can be socially difficult for people as well. People can become isolated. And that whole idea of it being difficult to talk about, family and friends often don't understand what you're going through. And there can be a spiritual effect as well. If it's very difficult to get going, and if you're very fatigued and feeling that life is just generally very difficult, can lead to a sense of hopelessness. Obviously these are the extreme cases, and a lot of people won't feel a fatigue like that, but if you do, it can be very difficult. So just moving on, what can we do about it? And there's two ways really of looking at the management of fatigue. And the first is that one I've talked about, is treating the underlying causes. For instance, if you have a lot of pain, or perhaps if you are suffering from depression, if that's treated, then that can help the fatigue a lot. And again, that's why it's very important to talk about it and to discuss it with your healthcare professional or your doctor. And then there's the treating of the fatigue directly. Unfortunately, there's not really a drug that treats fatigue as such, although some medications can help. More of what managing fatigue is about is looking at daily routines and trying to live your life with fatigue and to manage it within your daily life. And these are called the non-pharmacological strategies, the strategies that don't rely on drugs. And that's just what we're going to talk about for the rest of this presentation. So how do we cope with fatigue in daily life? These are some strategies. They're not rocket science, but some people find them very helpful. The picture in the middle is of a child with a money box, and the idea is that that's very similar to our energy levels. You watch a small child and they save up their pennies and their money, and when they open the money box, they have to think really carefully about how they spend that money, and if they spend it on this, they won't have it for that. And energy is a bit the same. You really have to concentrate on how you use it. So to do that, one of the things we would talk a lot with people about is prioritising things. We all have the to-do list, the things that we must do, the things that we have to do, and modern life makes those lists very long. But we would encourage you to think about the things that you like to do, the things that give you meaning in life, the things that give value to life, and focus a little bit of energy on those, because they're what make life worth living, really. And then we look at delegating, and I suppose if you've figured out what's important to you, there are maybe some things that you're pushing yourself to do that someone else could do for you. But again, none of us are very good at accepting help, and you have to work that out for yourself, because that's very individual to you. Alongside that, then we look at pacing yourself, and this is about trying to find a routine, trying to find a balance. And what we would suggest is that you try to avoid the boom and bust. That you wake up in the morning and you feel well and you feel good, and you start off and you work through the list and you work yourself all day, and then you need to spend 2 days recovering. You need to try and avoid that if you can, and balance things out better. And linked to that then probably is the plan ahead and set goals. And that again is about balancing the to-do list with the things that are the fun things and that give meaning and value. And it's about setting realistic goals. It's about trying not to be too hard on yourself. We're all our own worst critic. We all really are hard on ourselves. You'll remember at the end of the day the things that you didn't do, rather than focusing on the things that you did do. So we encourage people to be positive and to reward themselves for the things they've achieved, and not be too hard on themselves when there's things that they haven't done. Some of the other strategies for managing fatigue are on this slide, and some of them will be covered throughout the presentations today. Exercise and nutrition will be talked about in a little bit more depth, and exercise is really well evidenced to help manage fatigue when it's balanced with rest. And nutrition again is very important. If you're not getting the right nutrition and not getting the right energy from your food, it's very difficult then to keep going. Just want to talk a little bit about sleep, and sleep is linked with fatigue. And while we said earlier in the presentation that fatigue is not relieved by sleep, really good sleep can help manage fatigue. And when we talk about a good routine for sleep, or a good sleep hygiene, and this is about trying to find a regular time to go to bed and a regular time to get up, and keeping your nighttime sleep very separate. Sometimes sleeping during the day can be helpful, but we would encourage you to balance that up and to avoid sleeping during the day if it's impacting on your nighttime sleep. So if you've had a bad night, it's very tempting maybe just to sleep on a little bit longer in the morning, but we would encourage you to get up and then maybe to rest in the afternoon. And a time of relaxation can sometimes be more beneficial than actually sleeping. So some of our people we work with find relaxation techniques and strategies really helpful. But it's not for everyone, and you have to really decide whether it works for you. And then probably the other big thing is stress management. Life is generally very stressful, and I suppose finding a way to manage that is probably the holy grail of everything, really. But any techniques that help you to manage stress levels, so whether it be complementary therapies or relaxation techniques or just taking a walk, anything that helps to keep the stress under control is good for managing your fatigue as well, and those enjoyable activities that you fit into your day. Just to sum up really, the strategies and the techniques for managing fatigue really can be linked into managing and looking after a battery. If you think about your body as a battery, the energy is being used by all the demands of daily life, using up the charge in the battery. So you've got your stresses, your family, the household, the to-do lists, the recovering from illness, the guilt, that wee voice in your head, and the return, maybe if you're trying to return to work. And the battery needs to be recharged before it goes flat. So when you're ill and when you've been dealing with illness, you need to consciously think about recharging the battery. And that's the things we've talked about: the diet, sleep, relaxation, the fun things, the pacing, setting goals, prioritising activities. And all of those things will help to keep that energy level as good as it can be. During and after cancer, the body has a high demand for charge and for energy, and often it doesn't recharge automatically the way it normally would if you were well. You know, we're all doing something, we're all engaging in occupations, everybody is busy in one way or another. And how we adapt and cope to fatigue will be very unique and individual. There are strategies and techniques to help, but the experience will be different for everyone. And I suppose to really stress again, it is important to talk to someone, to talk to your doctor or your healthcare professional. And also there's lots of resources out there to help you find techniques and strategies that work for you. And I know some of them maybe you'll be able to access today. So I would just like to say thank you very much for listening. Thank you.